Okay, so when I was 18, I was like really fed up with acting, and I was like, I need to like figure out what I want to do aside from this and who I am outside of this, industry. And so I was like, getting really into like organic farming stuff. And so I did the WOOF program, Willing Workers on Organic Farms. It's like this program where you pay $50 and then they hook you up with whatever farms you want to, and you go out there and you volunteer your time farming for them, and you learn about what they do. So I was like, fuck this, I'm getting out of LA, going to go out and just do something completely different.
I lost you.
And I had a friend already doing it.
I lost you there.
Okay.
Go back to the you had just finished saying that you get to go out and like help on this farm, and you were like, fuck this, I want to get out of LA. Like that all got lost. So
okay. So I was like, fuck this, I'm getting out of LA. I'm going to figure out who I am outside of this industry and whatever. And so my friend was already out there. He was on this one farm. He was going to another farm.
Where did you go out to?
Like northern British Columbia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So really, really remote. And he was like, I'm going to this sheep ranch. You should come with me. And I'm like, okay, I want to come meet you. So I'm like, fuck this, I'm going to just do what I want. And so I just trust him. I'm going to go meet him, take a bus all the way across Canada. It was like 4 days on the Greyhound, just going through nowhere, and end up there, and we get picked up by these weird German people, and they take us out to this. I've never been anywhere more remote. It's just like bears and wolves and like nothing, like it's beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous. Like as soon as we get there, the guy who owns the place, he's just like, oh, we're in God's country, no? Like, welcome. And it really was. Like, you could drink water straight out of the lake, pure, clean. No one was around for like 100+ miles. And it's on a sheep ranch. And at first it's great. Like, I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I needed. Like, I'm out. I'm living a totally different life. Nobody here's even, had any connection with the film industry. And it's great. But then, like, as we spend time with this guy, he's just becomes, all these red flags go off. He's like this weird, he has this pagan ideology. Like he's really into guns and like believes all these conspiracy theories that like the polar shift is going to just wipe out society and there's going to be a nuclear war and he's going to survive. And, he's got this like weird, like quote unquote totem pole with like all these skulls nailed to it. And he's just like this weird guy. Like there's all these, like, we start finding all these like burnt sheep bones throughout the forest and stuff. And he's got all these like ceremony rules that like, it's all vague, it's like, there's these ceremony rules like on the walls where like, you will not have sex around time of ceremony or eat red meat and all this weird shit. And his kids are weird. Like they're kind of creepy and they have all these secrets. And like he says, they let these Satanists move into the next farm over, and then they had cursed them, and so they cast them out of the community. And it's just getting more and more bizarre. Like the more time I spend there, I'm like, this is not right. This is like weird, and some of what this I said, makes sense. Wait, did it freeze again?
Yeah, but you're fine. You're fine. I can edit. We'll be all right. Did we get caught up?
Okay. So it's like, I think we're good. But, so basically all these weird things are adding up. Like then they were cursed by these like Satanists, and then somebody burned down their barn, and like they have all this weird beef with people. And, he's got these very interesting, it's like classic. Here's what happened. I ended up in a cult is what happened. Right. Like, I never thought I'm very critical of everything that's around me. I was raised to be really critical. I'm raised like atheist. Like, we like, don't, my parents taught me like, don't trust anybody, and all of a sudden I realized we're like stuck in this fucking weird sheep pagan cult in the middle of nowhere. And my friend starts having real issues with the guy who's running this place, and they get into like almost a fist fight. And like, basically, I'm like calling my mom on the one landline being like, we need to get out of here. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, I can't tell you because homeboy is listening on the other line. And like, it was so weird. And so we basically ended up like fleeing. Like, we got a ride from this other guy, and he basically took all of our shit, and we were like, just basically escaped this weird ass place. And so I ended up, we kept whooping though. We went up to a couple different farms. They were totally excellent. This is nothing against the program. Like, it was a great experience other than that. But it was a real lesson in like, I was like, I'm going to get as far away from this world as possible, to the point where I ended up in like a very scary alternative that was just extremely weird. And like, to this day, I'll never forget just how much of a awakening that was, of like, okay, maybe the film industry isn't the worst thing on the planet. Maybe there are worse systems of like existing in the world. Scary. But,
dude, it's like you went from the movie
then also
industry.
On that trip,
it's like you went from the movie industry into an actual movie, into a movie.
Yeah, no, I literally, to this day, I watch like Midsommer, and I'm like, yup, been there.
That was what was going on in my head when you were explaining it. I was like, oh, it's like Midsommer.
It looked like that. And they literally had like weird beliefs, like, and there's like always like tongue in cheek, sort of like, we have our beliefs, and we're like, what are they? And then like, yeah. But then it was cool. I ended up like going to these other farms, and that was great. Like, met some awesome people who like put us up and learned about, the food system and everything. And then I ended up going to Victoria, BC. We hitchhiked to Victoria, and then ended up meeting. Do you know the band Iskra? Do you remember them?
Yeah. I saw them with Tragedy out here in the valley. They were awesome.
Awesome band. And so I went to their record store, and they took us in, and we ended up living with Wolfman for like 2 weeks, and they were super cool. And so the story had like a cool end and everything. But yeah, that was easily the weirdest story of my life, where I just remember thinking like, how the fuck? I mean, I know I wanted to get away, but like, I don't know if I was ready for whatever this ended up being. So that was really weird.
That's awesome, man.